You've been fed a blockbuster lie: the pyramids were not built by brutalized slaves dragging stones under a merciless sun. Hollywood's Cecil B. DeMille, looking at you, painted ancient Egypt as the world's first sweatshop, and shockingly, no one fact-checked. If you believed this, you swallowed a myth cooked up in the Victorian era by overzealous archaeologists and boosted by theatrical filmmakers. The Ten Commandments wrecked historical truth worse than any desert sandstorm. The real proof. Excavations in the 1990s at the Giza workers' village uncovered proper homes, bakery ovens, and medical kits. These were skilled artisans, not slaves organized into crews proud of their craft, clearly shown in tomb graffiti and payroll papyri from the 20th century BCE. Props to Mark Lehner. Thinking pyramid building was slave labor? You just fell for Hollywood's biggest historical con, like expecting Tesla to run on wooden batteries. While some believe slaves built the pyramids, others attribute their construction to extraterrestrial beings. Hollywood blockbusters and conspiracy YouTubers have been feeding you the biggest UFO-fueled lie that ancient Egyptians needed aliens to stack a few rocks. If you bought into George Tsoukalos' nonsense, think again. Thousand-year-old Egyptian graffiti just exposed the scam. People love the myth that humans couldn't build a simple Lego set without little green men. And we can blame this brainwash on Victorian mystery mongers like Ignatius Donnelly and trainwreck shows like Ancient Aliens. Here's the cold truth: in the 1830s, explorer Howard Vyse blasted into the Great Pyramid and found graffiti deep within crews literally scrawled "Friends of Khufu" on the walls. Last time one checked, aliens don't sign their murals in proper hieratic script. Need more proof? Archaeological digs in the 1990s uncovered entire workers' villages and graves at Giza. Real humans, not sci-fi extras, built history's greatest tombs. Payroll tablets and diaries now in the Louvre confirm this was a colossal national project. If you still believe aliens did it, you erase Egyptian genius and feed some seriously colonial narratives. If you'd rather trust History Channel hairdos over ancient architects, you probably think Stonehenge was a prehistoric Wi-Fi hotspot. Whether built by aliens or humans, the pyramids are renowned for their perfect alignments with stars and cardinal points. Instagram science pages have fed you a blatant fairy tale: the pyramids are some cosmic GPS devices, perfectly aligned with the stars by mystical geniuses. If you bought that lie, you've been straight up bamboozled by glossy infographics and clickbait documentaries. Everyone parrots the nonsense that the Great Pyramid is laser-aligned with Orion's belt, as if Khufu's architects had Google Maps and high-powered telescopes. This myth was spun by Victorian-era scholars desperate to crack ancient secrets and exploded when Hollywood pumped out alien builder specials for insomniacs stuck on late-night cable. Here's the brutal truth. 20th century excavations at Giza uncovered wooden merkets and sighting rods. Real. Low-tech tools proving Egyptian engineers relied on practical landmarks, not cosmic blueprints. The evidence? The Rind mathematical papyrus from the 15th century isn't struck. It's all about dividing farmland, not tracking galaxies. And that pyramid precision. Minor alignment errors scream human hands, not some otherworldly architect with a protractor. Still believe the pyramids double as intergalactic Wi-Fi towers. Congrats, your fantasy belongs to late-night TV reruns. Despite their astronomical precision, many assert that the pyramids served solely as grand tombs for pharaohs. You've been conned by the ultimate Hollywood pyramid scheme, literally. Since Victorian explorers and blockbuster movies hijacked Egypt's image, you've been fed the lie that pyramids were just pharaohs' gaudy burial condos. Spoiler: the truth crushes that shallow myth beneath tons of limestone. Everyone buys the story. Pyramids are egotistical king tombs, final resting places decked with sand and gold. Thank Victorian treasure hunters like Howard Carter and popcorn-gobbling mummy fans for brutalizing history with the dead king's penthouse narrative. But that fairy tale crumbles faster than a looted tomb. Here's the proof: the pyramid texts inscribed in the 5th dynasty, Pyramid of Unas, from the 24th century BCE, aren't lists of pharaoh bling. Their potent magical spells, cosmic rituals, and blueprints for society, not just tomb inscriptions. 1990s excavations uncovered shrines, boat pits, entire villages, an enormous ritual industrial complex, not a mere graveyard. If you believed pyramids were just king-sized coffins, Hollywood has mummified your brain. In truth, these structures acted less like tombs and more like cosmic Wi-Fi routers for ancient Egypt, connecting gods and people across the universe. Moreover, it is often believed that each pyramid was dedicated to a single pharaoh. You've been straight-up conned by the mustachioed Victorian gentleman. Their over-the-top stories fooled everyone into thinking pyramids were just lonely pharaohs' man caves. Hollywood lied pyramid building was a royal group project, not a solo flex. If you believed the tired line, one pyramid, one pharaoh, you swallowed a Victorian-era myth hammered into every colonial exhibit and best-selling book by Egyptologists from the 19th century. Let's expose the truth. Inside Pepi II's pyramid, built in the 22nd century BCE, inscriptions reveal burial extensions for relatives, a deluxe annex practically reserved for royal in-laws. In the 1990s, Saqqara excavations found shattered chambers stuffed with multiple burials. Even the 17th century BCE Westcar papyrus talks about pyramid redesigns and new roommates. So yes, pyramids were ancient communal housing, a luxurious timeshare long before Airbnb. If you still think they were solo pads, welcome to history's biggest con job. Although originally each pyramid was associated with one ruler, their appearance has evolved, contrasting with the smooth white limestone they once had. Hollywood lied to you. Every movie and dusty history textbook pushes the myth that the Egyptian pyramids were always a dull, sandy beige, like your grandma's cracked driveway. But the truth, way shinier and infinitely cooler. Pop culture brands these pyramids as weathered, desert-colored bricks, thanks to Spielberg's flicks and Victorian travel journals that rewrote history. Yet archaeologists uncovered something dazzling, polished white Tura limestone casing at the Great Pyramid's base, hidden beneath rubble from early 20th century digs. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, gushed about these pyramids glowing in the sun. Earthquakes and looters ripped off their gleaming outer shells, stealing their ancient disco ball shine and leaving behind touristy sandcastles. If you believed these icons were always weather-beaten, congrats, you just fell for history's biggest Instagram filter. Picture the Taj Mahal made of cinder blocks. Next time you visit Egypt, pack sunglasses, you'll actually need them. Beyond their physical appearance, tales of curses have long surrounded the opening of these once gleaming pyramids. Hollywood lied to you. Thanks to movies like The Mummy, you probably think cracking open a pyramid unleashes ancient death plagues. But the real contagion, Hollywood's epidemic of fake history, and you're infected. People claim disturbing a pharaoh's tomb curses explorers for generations. Blame 19th century Victorian obsession with the exotic and the sensational British tabloids that exploded the curse of the pharaohs after Howard Carter's 1922 Tutankhamun find. But here's what those front pages hid. Carter uncovered nothing but old air and bats, no vengeful spirits, and lived over 10 years after the tomb's opening. The actual danger. Mold and bacteria, confirmed by 20th century clinical reports, not supernatural death rays. If haunted pyramids were genuine, every museum would be a ghost rave, but the Louvre isn't hosting spectral dance parties. Still believed the curse. Congratulations, your only plague is an allergy to Victorian gossip. Even a malfunctioning smartphone is less unreliable than those pharaoh curse stories. These curses add to the mystery, fueling speculation about lost technologies that ancient Egyptians might have possessed. You've been straight up lied to by the Travel Channel and clickbait YouTube. They want you imagining ancient Egyptians wielding lasers and alien gadgets while ignoring the copper toolkits those same Egyptians left behind. The biggest Hollywood lie. Egyptians supposedly needed lost supertech lasers, anti-gravity devices to build the pyramids. This fantasy was cooked up by 19th century Victorian explorers, hungry for mystery, sensational pulp magazines, and cable hosts cashing in on every UFO headline for clicks. Here's the brutal truth. Real archaeologists like Mark Lehner, on the Giza Plateau mapping project in the early 21st century, uncovered actual copper chisels and stone hammers buried right next to chisel-gouged pyramid blocks. At Aswan's unfinished obelisk, 13th century BCE copper tools and work marks remain untouched, the ancient worker's toolbox frozen in time. The 14th century BCE Turin papyrus lays it all bare, no spaceships, just workers dragging massive stones with ropes and sledges. If you believed your IKEA bookshelf came with alien instructions too, maybe check for chisel marks before signing up for the next sci-fi pyramid conspiracy. Yet, some argue that no secret technology was needed, as massive armies of workers moved the stones using sheer muscle power. Hollywood lied ancient construction was not endless lines of sweaty musclemen hauling rocks. Thanks to blockbusters like The Ten Commandments and Victorian pulp fiction, we were fed a prehistoric CrossFit myth grunting mobs whipped like beasts dragging stones. Actual papyrus payrolls from the 26th century BCE Giza archives, Boston Museum of Fine Arts, reveal organized crews with names like drunkards of Mencore workers paid in bread and beer, not punishment. Detailed tomb art from the Old Kingdom shows project managers directing specialized teams using sledges, levers, and precise teamwork, not brute force. Even the workers' villages excavated in the 1990s Giza Plateau mapping project, led by Mark Lehner, prove these laborers received health care, decent housing, and standardized tools. Far from slave-driven chaos, it was a sophisticated operation. If you imagined the pyramids built by CrossFit maniacs fueled by grunts and whips, you swallowed a Victorian fever dream. Honestly, Bob the Builder after happy hour had it closer to the truth. Imagine thinking construction was dumb brute strength, not an ancient, well-oiled machine. Despite the colossal effort, legend says the 3 pyramids at Giza were built perfectly on the very first attempt. Everyone wants to worship the genius of the ancient Egyptians, but Hollywood lied to you. Blame every Discovery Channel episode that zooms straight into the Giza pyramids while ignoring the ancient architectural disasters. Victorian-era history books and blockbuster films sold you the fairy tale the 3 Giza pyramids were Egypt's flawless debut, no sweat, no mess, just instant megastructures. The truth: the bent pyramid at Dashur, built in the 26th century BCE, takes a bizarre, wonky turn halfway up, uncovered by archaeologists digging since the 1950s. Then there are the catastrophes at Meidum and Abu Rawash, uncovered in the 19th and 20th centuries, collapsed towers and half-finished ruins proving the Egyptians beta-tested their ambitious dreams. Basically, ancient Pinterest fails. Even the pyramid texts complain about construction headaches, proof it wasn't magic. Just endless patch-ups. If you believed Giza was a first-try masterpiece, congratulations, you fell for the myth. Maybe your TikTok cooking hacks work first time too. Intriguingly, the pyramids are thought to contain hidden chambers filled with treasures lost to time. You've been conned with a shiny goose egg. Hollywood lied, pushing the fantasy that every pyramid brims with deadly traps and glittering treasure vaults. If you believe this, blame cheesy adventure blockbusters, dime a dozen pulp novels, and bumbling 19th century grave robbers who'd blow up walls instead of decoding hieroglyphs. Everyone pictures Egyptian pyramids as gold-filled labyrinths. Think Indiana Jones, gold coins piled sky-high. Here's the brutal truth since the 1970s. Cutting-edge tech like ground-penetrating radar and muon scanners. See the Scan Pyramids project. 21st century exposed most chambers as tiny and empty, if they exist at all. The Great Pyramid of Giza, beyond a few cramped rooms. It's solid stone. Mark Lehner, The Complete Pyramids. 1997. Even the hidden voids discovered in 2016. Mere stone gaps. No secret treasure troves nature. 2017. So yeah, this is more IKEA warehouse than Hollywood jackpot. If you swallowed the golden maze myth, congrats, you bought Hollywood's fairy tale, not history. Next, they'll claim your smartphone's hiding ancient alien tech. However, the exact blueprints or planning methods used to construct these complex structures remain a mystery. You've been straight up conned by Hollywood and conspiracy YouTubers. Forget the nonsense about ancient Egyptians building pyramids with a crystal pendulum and gut feelings. The real secret: cold, hard mathematics so precise, it makes alien theories look like children's bedtime stories. That lie about Egyptians using mystical intuition or lost Atlantean secrets was fabricated by 19th century Victorian spiritualists and popularized by blockbuster movies, casting pyramid builders as proto-Jedi with psychic powers. Here's the hard truth. The Rhind mathematical papyrus from 1650 BCE is loaded with geometry problems and land surveying formulas, ancient math homework predating most major religions. Zoom ahead to the 1990s. Giza excavations archaeologists unearthed cubit rods and detailed blueprints of workers' villages, proving Egyptians used tools and surveying techniques, not some spooky extrasensory magic. If you believe these pyramid builders just eyeballed it, congratulations, you bought into a conspiracy pushed by your favorite action flick. What's the next myth you want busted? Adding to the enigma, only the upper portions of the pyramids are visible today, with much buried beneath the desert sands. You've been scammed by the ultimate archaeological clickbait, the so-called hidden pyramid. Blame Hollywood blockbusters and those endless History Channel reruns that sold you the myth pyramids as icebergs, with just a tip above ground and a colossal secret buried beneath. If you bought into this, congratulations, you're living an Indiana Jones fantasy, picturing archaeologists tripping over a stone cap to unveil a buried ancient skyscraper. Here's the brutal reality check. Ground-penetrating radar scans by the Egyptian Antiquities Organization in the 1990s shattered this conspiracy. The Great Pyramid's visible stone is practically the whole structure, no hidden 9/10 sunken beneath the desert floor. 19th-century explorers got confused by shifting sand dunes, then launched a rumor mill that fueled over a century of baseless, wild pulp fiction. Actual archaeological excavations throughout the 1970s and 80s uncovered only shallow foundations, no secret underground palaces, no hidden chambers, and definitely no ancient lost city Instagram worthy enough to make a billion-dollar Netflix series. Still clinging to the sunken pyramid fantasy. You've clearly binged more late-night pseudo-docs than you've trusted real archaeologists. It's like expecting to find a secret basement in your phone every time it glitches absurd and utterly baseless. Despite the passage of time and sand covering them, the symbols and carvings on the pyramids have remained unchanged. You've been totally duped, Victorian treasure hunters, and Hollywood have peddled the biggest lie ever that the pyramids are untouched, pristine relics from ancient Egypt. But here's the bombshell: stoneworkers from the Old Kingdom were remixing and defacing monuments long before Banksy dared lift a spray can. If you believed pyramid carvings stayed pure and perfect since the 4th dynasty, blame blockbusters like The Mummy and 19th-century archaeologists obsessed with the myth of virgin tombs. The reality. Ancient crews went full editor mode, patching, rewriting, and even erasing old hieroglyphs like graffiti artists. Back in 1837, Howard Vyse exposed this, discovering the notorious Khufu cartouche graffiti scrawled in secret chambers of the Great Pyramid. Hungry for more dirt? 19th-century Giza excavators unearthed worker scrawls, basically Khnum Khuf was here, tags slapped right over sacred stones. Mark Lehner's late 20th-century research confirmed ancient repairs, plaster cover-ups, and straight-up vandalism by Egyptians themselves, not accidental tourists. If you ever doodled on your school desk, congratulations, you share a tradition with the pyramid builders. Still buying that pristine myth. That's like believing no one ever photoshops their Instagram selfies. Interestingly, pyramid building is attributed exclusively to the Old Kingdom period in ancient Egypt. Textbooks have been gatekeeping your brain, claiming only Old Kingdom rulers built pyramids. Sorry, your history class just lied straight to your face. Hollywood and Victorian-era museum guides drilled into you that every Egyptian pyramid belongs to some Old Kingdom elite, complete with their dramatic civilization ends here, red lines. But the truth? The Middle Kingdom spanning the 21st to 17th centuries BCE was pyramid-obsessed. Senusret II slapped up his own at El Lahun, and his son kept the marathon going. Head further south, and the Nubian kings in what's now Sudan kicked off their own pyramid craze by the 8th century BCE. Solid proof from 20th century archaeologists and George Reisner's exhaustively detailed digs. So if you swallowed the lie that only the Old Kingdom built pyramids, congratulations, you probably also believe music died with the Beatles. Get mad in the comments, archaeologists are already having a field day. Throughout history, these pyramids have stood isolated amidst the vast, empty desert landscapes. Hollywood lied to you with every blockbuster and coffee table archaeology book. They want you to see the pyramids as lonely, dramatic sentinels standing in empty, endless sands, about as true as calling Las Vegas a quiet desert retreat. If you believed the pyramids rose isolated, surrounded by miles of empty nothingness, just waiting for Indiana Jones to wander through a sandstorm? Think again. Blame Victorian explorers, 19th century adventurers obsessed with selling desert fantasies and empty ruins. Their atmospheric travelogues sparked the myth that movies still exploit today. But drone and satellite surveys from the 2010s expose sprawling neighborhoods, bustling temples, and busy streets jammed right against the pyramids at Giza and Saqqara. Excavations from the 1990s uncovered bakeries, beer vats, and workers' quarters just steps from these monuments. Even Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, described these colossal projects as lively logistic hubs, not lonely desert enigmas. If you pictured pyramids like isolated Airbnb rentals, sorry they were ancient high-rises in a packed city block, think Times Square meets the Nile Valley.